Hey now everybody, well today in the Chris, Jamie, and Steve show we're going to be taking over each other's countries and influencing each other's stuff. We're talking about area majority and territory control.
Oh, we call it territory.
So starting out, I think what we should talk about first is the fact that I mentioned there's two different ones, right? Mm-hmm. There's territory control, there's area majority. And there is a very small difference, right?
Yeah, honestly, to me, a territory control is a lot more of you go in, you wipe out your opponent, now you have that space, and it's the number of spaces you have on the board is the important thing. Where area majority, typically it's you want to have the most in a certain area,
right,
and it gives you certain benefits. Mm-hmm. So the naming of this, even when we went in and we're like, oh, we're going to do territory control, and then to go and see it on the sheet as area majority, I was like, wow, that puts like a whole different feel in my mind. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people might think of them the same as being the same thing.
Well, I think it's important to note that you don't just mean boots on the ground when you're talking about this. Mm-hmm. Territories can have a majority influence. Mm-hmm. They can have other intangibles that factor into the control aspect.
Yeah, so I think the definitive, I guess what we're talking about is territory control is you're controlling the territory by being the only thing in the area.
Yeah.
Area majority is you can share it with other people. It's just that whoever has the majority has the most victory points, gets the benefit of the space, whatever. Yeah. Now, that sounds like it's a very there's such a slight difference between the two that it's almost negligible to make a differentiation. But like you said, like you looked at the word area majority, it made you think of different things.
Honestly, I look at them. I look at the strategies of those two games very differently. Yeah. Because in an area majority game, sometimes it's okay if I just maintain second place in a spot, because at least I'll get those other points. I don't have to worry about totally controlling it. Mm-hmm. I just want to kind of be in there and get the second place, which means I don't have to devote as many resources to it. I can devote them to the spaces I really want. Whereas in the territory control, where you have to own the space and wipe out everybody else that's on there, well, if I want to hold that space, I got to have troops there. I got to, there is no second place for that spot. I have to keep it. So it's a whole different way of thinking for me.
So I wanted to ask this. Steve, what is the very first territory control or area majority game you've ever played that I can guess?
Well, shoot, it was either Buck Rogers or Axis and Allies. I don't remember which came first.
So Risk wasn't your very first one ever?
You know what? You're probably right. I bet that was.
Probably was.
That was in elementary school. We played Risk and stuff.
Because I was thinking, what was my first one? And Risk immediately came to my mind as what the first one would be. But I bet you that it was technically Axis and Allies, because I owned them both around the same time in my life, and I don't think I've ever completed a game of Risk, or probably, you know what, I bet I even never played a game of Risk in my life, other than Castle Risk, which is a slightly different game. Tony had that, and we played that a bunch.
What about the Star Wars Risk, which is a totally different game?
I never played it.
I thought you did.
Nah, I had Lord of the Rings Risk, which was you got to get the ring to Mordor. Yeah. I never played it. Yeah. I had it.
I think we played that once, because Frodo's moving down that trail. Or Bilbo, whichever one it is.
Yeah. So I think Axis and Allies was my very first one for sure.
Yeah, I think I know Risk was mine because I remember distinctly that box in my parents' basement on our game shelf. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I started hanging out with gamer friends later, like in middle school and whatnot, that's when Axis and Allies popped up. And I was like, oh, I like this even better, because it seems like Risk with more meat to it.
It's good versus not good.
Yeah, exactly. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't want to play either of those games. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a big war gamer kind of guy. I don't like Twilight Struggle is the one that I find interesting because it's not just troops moving around the earth.
I think I'm going to need to find a hypnotist so I remember what my first game was.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm sitting here thinking about it. I never actually owned Risk. So I must have played it at some friend's house. I really don't know what I played first. It was either Axis and Allies or Risk.
Is it really that important?
No. But the point was that the games on our lists today are going to be so much better than Risk. Maybe not Axis and Allies, because Axis and Allies is actually a good game, but way better than Risk.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you brought up that you're not much of a war gamer, or these territory control style games weren't your bag. but lately you've been getting more into them in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I've made a conscious effort to get in them. Like, and when I first started, it was miserable because I was like, I don't like, everybody else likes these. I want to be able to play these with them and be competitive. So I've got to just stop shying away from them and just get into them and learn how to play them. So after Euros, and I conquered the Euro hill and became somewhat competitive in that.
You conquered it?
I became...
You have nowhere to go.
I became competitive. Let's put it that way.
I got you.
I didn't lose all the time.
Yeah.
And then I went into wargaming, which was like a conflict, more direct conflict style of game. And that's the only reason why I play them now. And the fact that now they have games that have this kind of territory control and conflict that also integrate Euro mechanics. And that's opened up a huge door.
For sure.
Yeah.
Chris is the first one to conquer the Euros since the Romans. Fun fact.
All right, Chris. Well, since you have conquered the Euros,
that's right,
and you've now conquered the territory control and area majority
I should not
games.
have used that word. I'm going to get such grief for that word because it's very egotistical. I think I'm going to take that back. It's not the way I meant it. All right, folks. Well, first on my list is a Euro. It is Guilds of London.
One you wouldn't expect.
No, but it is definitely an area majority game because the largest piece of the game is trying to breach a certain number on given tiles and thus take over that tile. So other people are putting stuff on there and you want to take it. Guilds of London, essentially you're just one of these guild masters, these guild halls out there that is trying to become the Lord Mayor of London. You do that by working with the other locations around London and sending your liverymen there to deliver goods or whatever they're doing, influence essentially. Or you can send them on expeditions over the sea. I find it very interesting because you have to think numerous steps ahead. You have to think what your opponent is going for because there's a little bit of, I guess, set collection and you're trying to get certain rows. If you get a certain number of people in a row, you get extra points. You're trying to get different colored icons on the tiles that are out on the board. New tiles are coming out every turn. And then every couple rounds, you resolve the expeditions. So that's like an ongoing territory control. So you're basically building up that one pretty high, and that can get very contentious. So it's very stressful. It's very, very thinky. In fact, this was the game we were playing when you guys were playing Slappy Salmon or whatever it's called, and we just wanted to kill you.
It was the greatest thing I ever saw in my life. Chris and Rob Rouse from Blue Peg Pink Peg were in a group of guys were over here playing a Euro game, and we're playing Happy Salmon right next to him. I never saw so many grouchy faces in my entire life.
It was a nightmare.
I took a video of it. I'll post it.
I must say that might have been my longest turn I ever took because every time I started thinking, you guys would start a new round and it was just chaos and I couldn't concentrate anymore. I hated it. It was so bad, but it was such a cool experience. Very strategic. And yeah, I mean, that to me, when I think of area majority, that's the kind of thing I think of. I don't know. You guys haven't played it yet.
No, I have not, but I know the real reason you picked this game. You were just in London last week, and you feel like you've conquered it.
Technically, I did. Queen works for me now.
Yes, I've never played it either. As a matter of fact, I have it on the shelf right over here.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it's one that I've never gotten to the table yet. And you talk about it very highly, and I keep thinking, like, oh, Chris should teach me this game, and we should play it, but I just never
Well, now that we played Cerebria, every single rules explanation in the future from now on is going to seem so easy.
I know, right?
So it's not going to be that hard.
So let's do it. Let's get it down and play.
Yeah. All right. Let's do that.
So what's your second one?
All right, my second one is what I would say is a typical territory control style format, which is Kemet. Everybody listens to the show knows I really like Kemet.
It's also you would call it one of your favorites, right?
I would call it my favorite, and it is the one that I picked to get myself to learn to play confrontational games like that.
You even said that you're going to start playing red exclusively because
Yes.
it's an aggressive color.
Yes, red is an angry color. I have to. It was psychological. I had to break the psychology of not feeling comfortable attacking my friends. So, and it's worked. Now I hate all you, and I could just go at it.
We hate you too. The feeling's mutual.
So, brief description of Kemet. Essentially, you're playing different factions in Egypt, battling for the Nile in the favor of the gods. You buy powers of the different deities, I guess you could say. And those powers can be monsters that are troops you add to your units that give you special powers. They could be things that give you more resources, all kinds of stuff. And you have a limited number of troops that you send out in small little armies to basically wipe other people out, hold the space for long enough to score a point. Because very rarely will you ever hold a space forever.
Right.
And to score one of the victory points, you have to hold two of the temples for a round, which is difficult, especially when you have limited number of troops.
And everybody else is onslaughting you as they're trying to conquer you.
Because as soon as someone starts getting close, they're like, oh, we got to go after that person.
Right, yeah.
And more often than not in Kemet, I've noticed that the person that lays low and lets somebody else kind of reach for the end goal, the person that lays low will be the one who comes back at the end and wins. Because they wait for the right moment when everybody is just focusing on that one person, and then they just score a bunch of points.
You can't be going all wild and running around the board and taking everything because everybody's going to come after you.
Yeah, because there are lots of ways to score your victory points. Attacking, some of the powers let you score victory points when you defend. You can control temples. You can buy certain powers. So there's a lot of different ways that people can sneak in victory points. And some of those victory points are temporary. You have to have them for a certain amount of, you have to hold them until you can win.
Yes.
I found this game fascinating.
I really enjoy the theme of Kemet too, because it's like a fantasy mashup with historical, ancient Egypt time period.
Yeah.
And because you represent a god, and the god summons monsters and things for you. And what's interesting too to me is that this is a territory control game that focuses on combat, but you don't have like cavalry and archers and infantry that you're buying. You have these monsters that do different things that you can get out. And that's how you diversify your army and make it more useful. So anyway, that's a fun game.
Yeah.
I love playing that.
The combat is like cards that you both play, and then you could have like a side deck of cards that can adjust your combat.
This is one of the games that I think does the hybridization of Euro and Ameritrash games to such a grand scale. Like not grand scale, but it's like they perfected it down to such a awesome level with this one, because there's resource management. Even the troops you have are essentially resources you're managing. The way that you take actions in the game, the way you buy powers and how you leverage those powers. It's all very Euro, but then it has this territory control, war game going on in the middle of it. It's a beautiful game.
Yeah. Definitely my favorite part of the game is my favorite mechanic. I like the powers, but my favorite mechanic of the game is that it is strategic to withdraw, kind of in Blood Rage, where sometimes it's a strategic decision to let go of the space. It's not, I got to have this, I got to keep it forever, or else it's a bad decision to leave. Sometimes it's good to leave. Yeah. You get in, you score your points, and bring your troops back.
You can't have everything.
Yeah.
And you have to reallocate your resources.
Yeah. Very cool.
Great game.
Love
Kemet's
Kemet.
awesome.
In fact, I got to play that again. I haven't played that in like a year.
We've got to play a lot of these games.
I know. It's so annoying. All right. So my last game, another one of my favorites, which always happens.
All three are your favorites.
Well, the first one's not my favorite. But my last one is one I get all kinds of grief about. We joke about it all the time. And then Jamie played it, and he liked it. Rococo.
We're just doing some ball busting.
Yeah, I know. Now you say that after you played it and enjoyed it.
Well.
Yeah, I know. So Rococo, you play a dressmaker or a suit maker, whichever you want.
A tailor.
Yeah, a tailor. And you're trying to get your garments into the palace during the Great Ball. You want the majority of your clothes in there during the Great Ball. So you do that by getting recipes, making dresses. You either sell them or you give them to some noble to take to the ball and go into a room. But the area majority comes into play, aside from its cool deck mechanic, which it has a really cool deck building. The area majority comes into play when you're trying to have majority in halls. There are like 6 halls in the place, and you want to have the majority of dresses in that hall. Second player also, or second best also gets some points, but not as many.
You want people to go into those halls and look around and just all see yours.
Yeah.
Like all your dresses are all over the place.
That's right. You want to be Versace when you go in there. But you're also looking for other scoring points that will give you extra points for having majorities, like the statues and inevitably at the end of the game, you want to have people in the upper hall, which kind of drives people to ignore the smaller ones down below. But if you ignore them and they only have 3 spaces, well, you're out of luck. But you want people in the upper hall because at the very end of the game, everybody goes up to watch fireworks. And you want to have best pick of the locations for the fireworks. So I think it's cool in the sense that you're always worrying about, is someone going to take the spot that I want? Like, I'm eyeing up that spot. I need to get the right garment to put in there. But I also need to do this other thing. Do I need to rush that garment and maybe take less, like make a garment that's worth less points just to get the majority in that location? So I think it gives you a lot of cool thought processes. Let's put it that way.
It's a fantastic Euro game. Yeah. It's just an amazingly designed Euro game. There's so much to manage. There's managing area majorities. There's managing like your garments and your resources to build those garments, managing your hand by deck building. And it's gorgeous. The game's gorgeous. It's extremely thematic for a Euro, in my opinion. It just feels like you're trying to do all of the things you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like even get to the roof to see the fireworks and make sure you have a good placement.
Yeah.
So your dress has the prime placement on the roof looking at the fireworks.
That's right. You want to be
very thematic, man.
The person in the best spot.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking at you and yeah.
And you got your dress right up there.
Yep.
You know, with the guy standing next to him who's got your suit on.
Yeah.
It's a great game. It's just a great game.
Yeah, it's cool to me because it takes area majority, and it also makes it important when you're going for that majority where you place your stuff. So it's not just I want to have the most in here. I want to have the most, and I want them all in the right spot.
Right.
You know, I dig it.
Well, Chris, London, Egypt, the fashion industry. Is there anything you can't conquer?
About Rococo, do you remember that GIF someone made of Robert De Niro in Stardust dancing around in his dress and they put my head on it?
Yeah.
When we first talked about that game?
Yep.
Bunch of jerks.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. Excellent list. I agree with everything on it except Guilds of London. I never played it.
Yeah,
so
well.
I'm assuming that it's good.
It's good, yeah.
But, all right. Well, come on back tomorrow and you're going to get Steve's picks for area majority and territory control games. We'll see you then. Take it easy, everybody.
Thanks so much, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, please do us a giant favor by subscribing to the channel and clicking that wacky bell icon. If you're into board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, we have a bunch of audio podcasts you might enjoy. You can find those at thesecretcabal.com or on iTunes and Stitcher.